Another experience in some whakapapa books, I found one of my the names of one of my ancestors on the Paiwai line. The ancestor his name is this, extremely rare. You won't find it anywhere else in New Zealand. Tohonga Io. That's his name. Tohonga Io. Okay. Another experience. I was up at the Mormon temple, and I was going through some of their ceremonies, and then my wife's ancestor came into the ceremony. He said, we were taught this in the Ngapuhi Wananga, and then he told me while I was in there, and it's undeniable, bro. I can sit here and tell you that's what happened. And he whispered into my ear and he says, there's some things in the Ngapuhi Wananga that we only whispered to. So we would get a student, a tōroma would sit on this side and I'll sit on, and we would whisper this kōrero and no one else was supposed to know.
Did this person have a shadow, or was it like...
The atmosphere buzzed.
Oh, right.
And I noticed it, and the officiator who was taking me through the ceremony, he noticed it too. He tihe mauri or he tihe.
Wow.
And then he said to me, afterwards he goes, did you notice I sneezed? I said, yeah, tell me more. Because I never sneezed. That ancestor was here, this particular ancestor. So he felt it, and he told me, and I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him my experience. And I went home and I told my wife. So that tells me that yeah, I'm on the right track, and to keep going, keep going. So I've got a friend, Sam Robinson, who wrote the book Tohonga, the book. Sam Robinson. He wrote the book Tohonga.
Oh yes, very. Ooh, have you fellas seen that book? That's a very good book.
What book is it?
Tohonga.
Sam Robinson from Ngapuhi. And he's interesting because he lives overseas and he's from Australia. He lives over there, and he probably doesn't know Te Reo Māori, but if you read his book, well, Ngapuhi's got an extraordinary tradition. They got a lot of kōrero and a very good tradition, Ngapuhi, without doubt.
Without doubt.
So I've got another question. Have you looked at a lot of Ngapuhi stuff? Because an interesting kōrero that I got from down there was Papa Tuanuku's union with Tangaroa. Have you heard anything like that, and as to why or what that was about?
Because the Ngapuhi were coastal people. Too cold to go and land. Too cold, and there's no kai with the mountains, no kai. So they're coastal people, so that makes terrible sense to me. But Ngapuhi come off Takitimu, and if you compare the kōrero, that's where they diverge, is the Papa Tuanuku and Tangaroa. They diverge in that, the moi, the marriage, sorry. But they come from the same Ngapuhi Wananga. That's it.
Pertaining to the kōrero about 1924, he said they exhausted their energies. Did they close the Wananga? Was it?
Closed it.
Fati. They didn't want to carry on?
Or? Some who, then what happened was remnants or people started to run them in their homes. And that's where you get the Remi Woods, Three Bala.
So it was like the changing of they could see the change of the guard, the old rule was changing, and they didn't see a reason to carry on?
Kamera writes to Perihari, Ngapuru, and bemoans the fact that no one can take it up, that no one was interested, no one was worthy.
It's terrible, eh?
And so they had a bit of a tangi, a bit of mama, because no one could take it up.
Well, cause was it the 1924? Yeah, well that's like post-World War where a lot of our kaumata died.
Oh, they probably the epidemic too, was it the flu epidemic, or what that used to be called, influenza.
There was a time back then when there was a big influx of finding scribes, and the scribes' sole purpose for it is, to sit next to someone like yourself when you're 95 years old and just take as much as you can. That's why when you see stuff, it looks like scribble because it's really these are Pākehā people that are writing this down that have just been learnt through the missionaries, the Reo Māori. So they're actually called scribes back in the day, koe tera ko te kuku tika ne. And their sole purpose was to sit at the dying beds of these kaumate, these koroekara, and tuhi ana kōrero. And so you could, if you think about it, you know, some of them with it, kare te mea matatau rau atu I te reo, especially te reo, but the reo ka puta mai te araro o te koroe o nā kaumatu nā tohunga, matatau rau atu. So you could just see just from that transition from his mouth to the ear, to the spin, through to the pen, there could be lost some essence in regards to it. So when Mika says, you know, there's changing times, there's timelines when some of the stuff is, well, I think it was that time where it really started, because as you know, we're an oral people, we're an oral language. You know, there was the only two we did was through carving and through stuff. But interesting.
Yeah. So this setting here is I look at my friend Nga Puhi. He's setting up Whare Wananga, and he's setting up the old way, where he will do a sacrifice of an animal and put and it'll become a whatu and put it under the pautoko manawa. That's how back to the original way that they did it. That's how far back he's going to go. And his tauira have to fast, go nohu puku. White clothes. Now that tikanga comes from Waitahu. So it's okay because his Whare Wananga is a pan-tribal one. It's not based on Ngāti Awa. And so he's getting tikanga from different Whare Wananga, which I have no issue with. I used to, but hey, he can do his own thing. And he's going right back. And so what that does is, just imagine that someone gets down to their taros, gets put in the water, gets tohi, then goes into the Whare Wananga, gets put some clothes on, then again they do some more karakia over them. What that does for the student is they see it as really special. Gee, I'm special. I feel special. I'm taken through these special ceremonies. This stuff is special. It's cordial. If you watch the footage of Sir James Henare, he talks about how he was in the Whare Wananga and he used to put his hands behind his back and he used to feed him with a stick. Now, I was watching and I was thinking, okay. Now I can see why he used to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and ata karakia, waiata, ori, and just practice and practice and practice. He's a different generation. He's a generation that's been through all of that ceremony, and he thinks, gosh, this is the real deal. This is life and death stuff. This is the real deal. Whereas in this setting, you guys can go home and eat and have food here with tapu kōrero. It's a different type of setting. So with that instance, the kaituhitu's been there by the kaumātua, that again is a different experience as you explained. But then there's a connection. If you go through the ceremony, there's a connection between the tohunga and the tauira, and in an unbreakable connection, a spiritual connection, right? And just imagine the tohunga, when they get together before a session of the Whare Wananga, they're getting together and say, okay, we need to do our ceremony and our karakia over each other. And so they did all their preparation before the tauira even came. And so there's all this tapu, all this mana atua there. And then the tauira come and all the young kids are going, wow, this is different. We heard about this place, but look at it, this is amazing. Wow, look at these stones over there. And, gee, he's dressed really funny. Wow, this must be important. I better listen up. So it's a different type of experience.
Can I say something about that, Matua? I think what you're talking about is doable. You've got to they're probably going to base that one on the Mātātua tradition, on Ngāti Awa. I have good reason to believe that they're deep enough tradition there. Now, Ngaitahu, I reckon that they were nomadic, and it was cold, and their land was confiscated, isolated, perfect. If you look at the Ngapuhi Wananga we're talking about, they called it, they had a name for it. However, it was Panguru and Mitimiti. It's pretty remote, isolated. And then Hokianga, especially, there was a lot of spiritualists there. Okay? Now, Christianity came here in 1814. It took them 10 years to get their first convert. The early Māori Christians in Ngapuhi were killed by Tāreha and Koikoe and the Makamuka. Because the Ngapuhi chiefs felt that how could you have an egalitarian heaven? Are you telling me that my slave is going to come to the same heaven as me? See? So it's doable what Matu is saying, but it's got to be thematic, like Tawhaki or Tāne, and you've got to have that body of knowledge like Kāmira. Kāmira and Ngākuru were uncle and nephew. And one of them said that they were dedicated as a child, that they were dedicated to this thing of being the repository. But again, Hokianga was full of spiritualists, and Yotupu Ngāpara Matānui was heavily Christian. And the Ngākahi, well, the whakapapa was Te Atua Wera, and after him it was Apara Matānui, and after him was Mohi Waitai, and that's the whakapapa I use. That's of the Ngākahi cult. But Apara Matānui was very Christian, without doubt. Okay, how I would do it? If it was me, I would take you because you're from Toki Pāngari. I'd take you because you're from Apara Matānui. So I would base it on whether your family has a tradition in what I'm talking about. You see, my tupuna Heta Rewati, he was like this. He was fed. Ben Armstrong said, your tupuna said, Heta Rewati was fed, he was tapu. And the timing was when they first scrub cut Mount Motatau. Ben Armstrong said. And a lot of Ben Armstrong's land was from Eru Rewati, who my son's named after. Uncle Ben was whāngai to Eru Rewati and Mangukuia. And a lot of his land was Rewati land. So you see what I'm saying? I would be a bit more selective than what they're doing. I would take you because you're from Apara Matānui. I would take you because you're from Toki Pāngari. So I'd have to look at each whānau and say, do you have is this in your DNA and in your whakapapa?
Kia ora mata, kia ora whānau. Tū just tira pia ka wāte nei te papa mo e pātai, hei kōrero rānei, katai ka hoatu te taima ki a koe mata, mai whakakapia ki a tāte nei hui ne. Nena e pātai e kōrero tūtahi.
Tiki oha, tiki feel.
Is there a link or is there anything? Sometime you just heard about these things?
Ai, tiki yeah, the predominant kōrero is that Tiki was the first man. A variation on the kōrero is that he took some of his blood and his saliva and he took kuruwaka and made himself a female companion. Hini Oiwone. But the whakapapa in these whakapapa books have him married to cosmological epics. So I saw that in brief and I thought, wow, what do I do with it? And just went on, I said, I'll shelve that and get back to that later. But Tiki Oha, or Tiki definitely is apparently the first man, but he's very prominent in Mani Poto whakapapa, Tainui whakapapa, most whakapapa. So I would say that tohunga say, okay, let's teach about the first man and the first woman. Alright, let's grab this whakapapa with Tiki, pull it up, and recite it. So the way that they used to do it is they'll have the three tohunga. They have the tohunga ihu rei and they have the tohunga tūriki. The tohunga ihu rei would recite it, so he would be the one that has the tāhuhu. Okay, so he holds the mana, he holds the mauri, and he holds what they call the tāhuhu. He holds the kōrero. And then he would speak, and then he would keep going until he gets tired, and then this other subordinate tohunga would take it up. But the other tohunga tūriki would be the ones that explain it. That's what we're missing. With all this kōrero, we've got no one to explain it. We can recite whakapapa end on end and day on day, but can someone explain it? No one can explain it. If someone pulls out a karakia and just Can someone explain it? No one can explain it. So that's one of the gaps in our knowledge. Now, just going back to, I don't know if I answered your question, but just going back to what Mato was saying about Nga Puhi. Nga Puhi's whare Wananga got really hit, really bad, and the reason being is because the Pākehā had a lot to do with your people first. And so it makes sense that the whare Wananga started to lag and started to crumble and started to go into disuse because of the contact with the Pākehā. Mātorohanga used to also tangi and mamai over the fact that none of the young Māori wanted to know his kōrero. They just weren't interested. In fact, when you read the transcripts of his whare Wananga, a lot of the students were asking him some really dumb questions. And they were asking him some really impolite questions like, Mātorohanga, skip the stuff about Io, we don't want to hear about Io, tell us about the whakapapa. Just tell us about the whakapapa. And he said this, Taiwa, if I don't tell you about Io, the kauwairaro is not tethered to anything. You take the kauwairaro, what does it do? It does nothing, it holds in the hand. It can't eat food. So it has to be tethered to the kauwairaro for it to function properly. You take that away, then all this kōrero is useless. And here's what he done. He went into depression for 3 days because of because of this tauira, his attitude towards the kōrero. And he'd done that a lot throughout the Wananga. He kept going, finished, you guys are dumb, I'm out of here. And he wouldn't talk to anyone for days on end. Just go into depression. But then he'd come back because I'd keep pressing him, Mātua, we need to record this stuff, All right then. They'd ask another dumb question. He'll shake his head and they'd, finished, go home, I had enough. You guys are dumb. So he had that challenge in the Wairarapa. Any more questions before we...
Just one last question, sorry, from both of you actually. Do you think that religion played a big part in the dismantling of the whare Wananga?
That's a great question. I was waiting for someone to ask that question.
Because my family in particular, tino kaparika, like, I never heard of tapu in my life before I was to Kura this year.
Right.
I didn't even know what tapu was.
Right.
Because there's always himene,
Right.
And when Bishop Pompalea came up to Hokianga and he had his first service in 1838, it was my tupuna that gave him the name, Pāngani. And that tūturu Catholic, man, nothing else.
Right.
My grandparents were just Catholic day, night, all the time.
Right. So some religions were more severe than others in terms of their kawa, in terms of their tikanga, in terms of what they required of their parishioners or their members. Catholic definitely did some very hard line ways. However, a lot of the tohunga who were taught at the highest levels of the whare Wananga, and I can show you some of them, became Christians.
Yeah.
Then what they done was they took Christianity and they mixed it with, they mixed it with te ao Māori, or taha Māori. And then you had the pai mārere, the hauhau, na ngākahi. And I imagine that when they opened up the book of Genesis, they would have opened that up and thought, this is whare Wananga kōrero, because there's one being who speaks the creation into existence, just like a tohunga. A tohunga speaks things into existence. A tree is alive, he speaks, it dies. Someone is alive, he speaks, it dies. And so this is one of this is one of the arguments against Io being tūturu, is that Papa Tūnuku and Tāne just came into existence from Tapo. But we did what's this whole idea of Io speaking the universe into existence? They missed the fact that Io is a tohunga, and Mātorohanga said he's a tohunga, and tohunga speaks things into existence. They make things through their mouth, make things happen just by speaking. And that is tūturu Māori, and Io's tūturu Māori. And so they opened up the book of Genesis and thought, hey, this is whare Wananga stuff. And yet these people are just carrying it around. But remember this. Their whare Wanangas, their knowledge of the world started to shrink over time. When they lost contact with Tahiti, Rarotonga, Samoa and Tonga, Papa Tūnuku started to shrink to only include the borders of New Zealand. And so it's reflected, if you take a snapshot of the whare Wananga in the 18th century, the kōrero reflects that the that has a very narrow geographical spread. And if you're lucky, you'll get to include other islands like Rarotonga and Tahiti in the kōrero. So the Māori thought that Io only presided over New Zealand because they lost contact. Whereas all the whare Wananga around the different islands used to come to Tapu Tapu Ātea to re-update the knowledge and to share whakapapa and to keep it fresh, right? So our kōrero extends from Hawaii back to New Zealand, back to Hawaii, and that's it. So when the Pākehās came, they're called the Pākehā heaven piercers. So they saw the ship coming from the horizon and they thought, well, we've never been that far before, because beyond that horizon is actually Ranganui. And so they called them heaven piercers. They came through the horizon and pierced it. They thought, well, these fellas are from outer space. Our whare Wananga kōrero can't account for this ship that's coming towards us. Where the heck did this come from? So they got afraid when they saw the Pākehā. So our whare Wananga kōrero says nothing about England, because their whole whakaaro started to shrink as they lost contact. So when the Bible came, they thought, this Atua is the Atua of the whole planet. Because Christianity spread throughout the whole planet.
Oh, yeah.
Iotanga was like,
Yeah.
so, and you'll see in the kōrero, they start to equate Io with Ihawa, because they share similarities, but then there's some divergences as well. That's just my whakaaro.
Ka re pātai anō, whānau? Tūmeni, eh? Well, hoatu te taima kia matu ne.